Good morning, it's Heidi with Broadmoto Farm, and today I'm out here in my perennial patch, and over the last 2 days I've managed to get them all cleaned up. So this patch of perennials here behind me, we've got some lilies, there's some Delphinium down there, and then way down there, that is all peonies and things. So this patch here is actually my holding facility, and this is probably the 3rd season that these perennials have been in here. So the reason all of these perennials are back here is about 3 years ago when we started our home selling journey. We brought everything down here the summer that we listed our property. And I just knew that I had all of these perennials back here that I didn't really want to lose when we sold the place. So my dad allowed us to rototill a big wide strip here, and then that harvest season, while the house was still on the market, I dug up all of my perennials and brought them here. Unfortunately, it took another, I guess almost 2 full years for the house to sell. So this became a holding facility for all my perennials. And then with the house being dug this fall, I didn't want to move anything where the construction crews would dig or drive on it. Plus I didn't really have any plans for any of these perennials. So once again, I'm keeping this section clean. And with any project, you tend to let it go too far. The weeds got up to my waist. And so yesterday I managed to get the perimeter all rototilled, and then yesterday before it got too hot, and now here first thing in the morning before it's warm, I finished the section. So let's see what I've got all out here and we'll go from there. So these here are Delphinium, and typically they are well, probably to my head height, but we've had such a drought year that you can see they're kind of just mid-height of me. And next year they'll be under irrigation, well, at least have access to water more when I bring them up closer to the house. But one thing with perennials is they're super durable, and even though it's been incredibly dry here, they're growing amazingly. And I'll show you what I mean when I say pretty dry. So this is a soil. I rototilled this here, and there is pretty much no moisture in there. Now, probably deep underneath these perennials, a good 6 to 8 inches, there will be a little bit of moisture, but up here on the surface, the good 1 to 2, even 3 inches down, there is really no moisture. So that's why these perennials are super amazing, and why you want to have them in your garden is because they are durable, they are hardy, and they're great to have in your collection. The other thing we have in this holding facility is all of my shelter belt that I planted this spring. So this here is a Bylands Poplar, and they're coming great. But the other thing is I had to plant them directly into this perennial row this spring because I had no ability to get any of this holding facility cleaned up. So that's another reason why all of these perennials are going to be cleaned up, because you can't grow perennials into your shelter belt. But the poplars here are going actually really well. Again, we are watering them about every 7 to 10 days. We just want to make sure that they are really rooted into the ground, but I don't want to baby them too much because they are a shelter belt and they have to survive all of this crazy weather. So these are the poplars, and down here we have our spruce tree, but you can see I haven't gotten them weeded yet this summer either. So that'll be kind of our next project. Over the next week, I'll get all of these spruce trees uncovered from the weeds, but yesterday, getting all of this rototilled here, at least up to the tree row, was a good start. Then I'll probably just weed right around the trees, and then we're mowing up the weeds up to them on the other side. Behind me here, I have some Silver King sage. It really took a hit this winter. There was really no snow cover, and the majority of it died. But you can see here, we've got lots of little suckers coming out. So this fall, I'll be able to dig up this section here, take those roots, and go put them in the new flower bed. Now, coming behind me is my massive lily collection. I love Asiatic lilies, so I have tons of many different colors. And the beautiful thing is this week they started blooming. So behind me here, this section here is all of my peonies. I have about 70 peonies throughout this section. There's maybe 50 that are big here, and then farther down the line there's about another 20 that are new. Now peonies do not like to be moved, so these have been in here for now 3 years, and they started to bloom this spring, but because of the drought they didn't bloom super amazing. So as much as I don't really want to move them, they are going to have to get moved into a place where I can get them some irrigation so we actually get some beautiful blooms next year. Why do I have 70? That's a good question. So when we lived at our previous location, I was starting a cut flower farm. And so peonies are one of those beautiful flowers that you want to have in your cut flower collection because they're short season, but everybody loves them. So we will see how many I keep when we move, but probably they'll all get moved into a new holding facility just outside of the vegetable garden. So here also is another section of Asiatic lilies, and some of them have started to bloom here as well. This section here behind me is all of the garlic that will be available for sale come the fall. We've got about 5, maybe 6 varieties in here. So all of our garlic will be available for seed or for culinary use in the fall. Most of the sales go through my husband. He has lots of customers for those. We will keep a certain amount for ourselves to replant again, and then we'll start that whole cycle again next year. So here in the island, benthigs are kind of slow to grow. One thing I've really noticed this year with this hot, really dry weather we've been having is all of the perennials that I transplanted or moved this spring are really struggling. Even though I do water this on a regular basis, everything is stunted and much shorter. But I do know that come next spring, it should be back to their vigorous, regular self. But the bed itself is looking really good, and I'm happy with how it's filling out. And probably will add a few more things come next spring. But for right now, I'm really happy with how things are going. So some of the other updates that are going on here around the yard. The greenhouse is still kind of in the same holding pattern. It's been super hot and we haven't wanted to do anything when it's been hot. So at this point, we are at a holding place where all we have left right now is to put the greenhouse plastic up and over. So we're waiting for 1, a cooler day that we're not going to melt, and 2, a day that is calm enough that we don't take off like a parachute with that greenhouse plastic. We'll also have to have at least a crew of about maybe 5 or 6 people to help us to get that up and over. But the garden behind me here is starting to produce amazing. And being that it's in a new ground, I wasn't 100% sure with how it was going to grow. But the fact that we've got irrigation going to this, that's been probably our saving grace here. The strawberries are coming on like crazy. I'm getting probably a half gallon of berries every 3 days, so that's been quite impressive. I also started picking peas this week, and I put about 13 cups into the freezer already. The onions are coming along great. Look at the size of that stalk, so there should be a good onion growing on underneath there as well. The potatoes have also started to bloom, so that's exciting. The corn is taking off. The beets are doing good. The first tall ones were my first seeding, and the second one here was my succession seeding. So my first planting ones, they're already giving me a good size beet that we could have some of those tonight for supper. The beans are starting to bloom. Hi, kitty. Here we've got some purple beans. Also in the mix, I've got some green beans coming. And I've got some pumpkins, 1, 2, 3, 4 that are starting to grow. And you know those raspberries that I planted earlier this spring? They're coming along lovely as well. So they'll be a nice patch for next year. Here we've got the carrots, and then over there we've got some lettuce that's coming as well. I did some direct seeding of lettuce this year, but I think it was just too dry. It never did take. Here now at the back of the garden, I've got a row of cucumbers, I've got my tomatoes, and then I've got a bunch of annual warm season flowers that are coming. This here is some ornamental wheat. We'll see what it produces. We've got cosmos and all sorts of other things that'll hopefully start blooming here in the next little bit. So you can see all of our chicks have certainly grown a lot bigger, and there are far too many roosters in here. There's got to be at least 50% roosters. So this Saturday we will be doing a bit of a butchering session. I haven't quite picked which roosters I want to keep, but we have to thin this flock down. It's time to get rid of feeding roosters, but they can certainly feed us. The other problem with having this many roosters is they start to pick on each other, And we are certainly noticing that there are a couple mean ones in the bunch. This white one here is probably the instigator of most of the rooster fights. So there you have it. That is what's been going on over the last couple weeks here. There's not a ton going on, mostly just maintenance of the garden. And yeah, as things go along, we'll keep you updated. But for right now, we're kind of in that summer mode where we're coasting, just kind of doing the little bit that we need to do. And yeah, I guess one thing I didn't show you is that we did get the house finish siding here this week, and it really transforms the way the house looks. I'd really love it if you would click that like button. It's a great compliment. And anyway, we will see you next time on our next update. Have a great day. Bye.